there's a thin line between heroism and madness.
Here the line fades to nothing at all. This is a world of capes and lunatics.
And nothing is off limits.
Hello and welcome to Before the Bat, the Gotham podcast, your guide to the TV show Gotham and all things Batman. I am Phil, and for this special edition, I'm here with Bullock, and we have a very special guest. It's Mr. Jason Starr.
How you doing?
Good. We're here because he wrote the novel, the Gotham novel, Dawn of Darkness. It's a prequel novel, and just to start off, Jason, I thought I was going to be bored with this, prequels aren't like my favorite thing, but I was like, I was intrigued. I got into this. I'm like, I tore through this book. I was like, wow. I'm like, I can't believe this. There's no, there's like Little Bruce. I mean, there's no Batman. It's a prequel to even the show, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I did not expect that.
It's always good to surprise somebody. But...
Yes, I mean,
fighters want you to be,
you shattered my expectations, and pleasantly surprised.
Oh, speaking of the fact that it's a prequel, I think I read somewhere you sat down with the writers because like the canon of how it takes place, it's like 5 days before the start of season 1, and we get little glimpses of people from season 2 and things like that. Is it true?
Well, they had to, I saw all the episodes, obviously. I also had access to some of the scripts for episodes that hadn't aired yet because I started writing this probably when season 2 had already started. So season 1 was out there. But there's things that, I don't want to give any spoilers here, but there are obviously events that happen over season 1 or season 2 that I needed to address even in a prequel. Because Bruce, of course, is trying to solve this mystery of parents. Actually trained. So the challenge of writing the prequel was to tell a story about what happens before the show begins, but without giving away too many secrets for anybody who's just starting to watch the show, hasn't seen the reveals of season 2 yet. So it was a sort of delicate balancing act. When I write my other novel, any other novel, it's sort of a conflation.
We're kind of losing you a little bit. You're cutting in and out, but you were saying you got another Gotham novel. I believe I read that.
I've written another Gotham novel, but I was just saying in my other novels, I don't have to deal with these issues of having to reference a pre-existing show. So there were a lot of information I couldn't give away in the prequel, which because it would ruin the show for people who hadn't gotten to the end of season 2 yet. So it was sort of a delicate balancing act. So I worked with the writers on as far as details about the characters, but also them cluing me in on where the show is headed for season 2 and beyond, because I didn't want to accidentally create a plot line that they were going to create themselves in season 3 or season 4, for example. So I had to reference, we had to go back and check with each other.
Has there been any release date set for the next novel?
No, I mean, it'll probably be sometime at the end of this year, or more likely, I'd say, like early next year. I think probably the ideal time. I don't know if an actual season has been greenlit of Gotham for the next season, but I think that seems likely at this point. And I think the ideal time for this book to come out would be before next season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think the upfronts are soon, so they're probably going to announce it then.
I will reveal here, I haven't really told anyone yet, that the new book will take place between season 2 and season 3. That's why it's called Gotham City of Monsters, because it's during that period when the monsters have escaped from Arkham.
Ooh.
And Jim Gordon's a bounty hunter. There's actually, in the show itself, there's about a 5 or 6 month gap they reference to what happened in Gotham. And when we start season 3, Gordon is apprehending a monster. So this is a book about everything that happened when the monsters were running amok in Gotham.
Did you know that before, like towards the end of closing this? Because there's a line that Bruce says in the book: "Monsters are a true mystery. You think you can know a monster, but there's always a part of the monster that's elusive, that you'll never know or fully understand." Or is that just some happen chance kind of thing that happened with that line? Oh, sorry, it was like my favorite line in the book. Sorry.
So I'm sorry, what was that question?
Oh, there's a line in the book that Bruce says about monsters. Monsters are a true mystery. You can think you know a monster, but there's always a part of the monster that's elusive, that you'll never know or fully understand. Did you know that next prequel book was going to be well, not prequel, but the next book was going to be about that by the time you got around to writing that line, or that's just like coincidence?
That was actually a coincidence, because although I mean I'd seen the scripts for the end of season 2, so that's a good question. Did I not really, because there was already this talk. This isn't really a spoiler, but anybody who's seen any of season 1 or season 2, knows that there are experiments going on at Arkham. So, and we had met Karen Jennings through Bruce's investigation. So we knew that monsters existed. We just hadn't seen all of them. We didn't really know the extent of it. So, I guess there was a little foreshadowing there, but it was based on like what had happened in season 1, season 2.
And like, who's your favorite character to write in, well, either this book or the next book? It seemed like you probably had fun writing Harvey Bullock.
And Alfred.
Yeah. Harvey. Well, Alfred was fun because there were a lot of hints about Alfred's backstory on the show, but he's one of the characters probably with the most mystery, because we know he had a relationship with Thomas Wayne, but we don't really know how he became butler and had this sort of influence on Bruce. So that was sort of a clean slate, which was fun. I think when it's a clean slate, it just gives me more creativity as a writer, because I'm not confined by doing things that have to stick specifically into the show. So I could do whatever I want. Like with Alfred, I could just create this whole backstory. And with Harvey, I just think he's just a really entertaining character on the show. Donald Logue, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who plays him on the show, does a great job. And I think with Harvey, I just love the voice. He has a really strong voice and attitude, so it's fun coming up with the funny sort of one-liners that Harvey has, and just his sort of just attitude about being a cop. He's sort of like he's a good guy, but he's a bad cop. That's how I kind of see him. Like he doesn't want, especially in a prequel before the Waynes were killed. It really is even more of like a Wild West in Gotham. So the monsters haven't risen yet, but I mean the villains haven't risen yet, and but it's still it's the cops certainly don't play by the rules in Gotham. And given my background as a crime writer many years, that sort of character who's sort of a gray character who's a good guy but does some bad things really appeals to me. So that's why I really like writing his character.
Oh, that I don't mean to sidetrack too much, but I did want to ask you. You've done like a lot of comic book writing also for Marvel and DC and others, and like we're big comic book fans here. Like, who are some of your favorite like comic characters?
That's a long list.
No?
I have written a little Batman. I worked on a series that was a combination of Batman, Doc Savage, the Avenger, not the Avengers, the Avenger. There was a DC character, the Avenger. I would say Wolverine, because I did the Wolverine Max series for Marvel. I've been telling people I'm the creator of the R-rated Wolverine. Which in a sense I am, because I was the first one to do that. But yeah.
I liked your work on The Returning. I hear Boom is a great place to work. You have worked on like some of my favorite characters. I did enjoy The Returning, which is by Boom Comics, and I heard Boom was a great place to work. How was that experience?
Yeah, no, Boom is great. What's different about that is I got to create the whole storyline. It was a limited series, The Returning. It was 4 issues and then collected as a graphic novel. And Andrea Moody, the artist, and I created all the characters and the storyline. So yeah, I mean, Boom, I think, and Image are, in my mind, 2 of the top places for indie comics. And yeah, that was just like just probably a little more leeway to do what we want to do at Boom, as opposed to what I've done at Marvel, which is always working with pre-existing characters. So there's a limit to what I could do. I mean, with Wolverine, it was sort of like a different universe. It was the Max universe, so I had some more leeway with that. I did an Ant-Man novel for Marvel, which was also a little restricted. I mean, I got to do what I wanted to do, but I couldn't have plot lines that intersected with the movie too much. So so it's a nice mix of going back and forth and being able to do occasionally something that's original, but also, working with, these great characters at Marvel and DC is certainly very enjoyable. So.
Yeah, I noticed that about you, that you like to do a lot of standalone work, especially in your earlier works, where basically it's just New York as the series regular. It's about the only commonality.
Yeah, I've written about 15 or so crime novels, and most of them are available on Amazon. Just type Jason Starr into Amazon, they all come up. Many are psychological thrillers, suspense, crime fiction. That's pretty much how I got into writing comics. An editor at DC knew me from my crime writing, and they were soliciting writers for Vertigo to do graphic novels. And so I think the first comics project I worked on was the graphic novel The Chill for Vertigo. And around the same time, I did an issue of The Punisher from Marvel. So I sort of got into the whole comics world through my crime writing, because I get that question a lot, like, how did you get into writing comics? And I think the thing with comics is there's no real path to it. Like, everyone seems to have their own story of how they got involved.
Oh, well, how did Titan Books, who's the publisher of this book, how did they contact you?
Through the grapevine. I've written several books for a publisher called Hard Case Crime, including a few books I've co-written with Ken Bruin, who's an Irish writer, and a very popular series of books we wrote for them. And they're part of the publishing wing of Titan. So through them, Titan asked me if I wanted to, do these Gotham novels. And it's always hard to turn down something that involves Batman. I guess it's like the 10-year-old kid inside me, is like, wow, this is cool. So even though if I'm busy on another project, it's always hard to say no to anything that's kind of sounds cool and comics related.
Awesome.
That's what I was going to ask you. Would there be interest on your part in doing I'd love to read a comic book Batman, but in a novel from you, that continuity?
In following the continuity of the
DC Comics, yeah.
DC Comic. I guess it's a possibility. I'm always open to any idea. I guess there's a chance I might do another Ant-Man novel at some point. But yeah, I guess I have. The thing about writing a novel is it takes time.
Oh yeah.
So a comic also takes time, but it's easier to sort of integrate into something else. If I'm working on a book, I could work on a comic at the same time. Taking on a novel is a big commitment, so it's sort of like a scheduling thing. If I'm working on another book, it's sort of hard to write 2 books at the same time. But in general, writing a Gotham novel probably doesn't take as long as writing a normal book. For whatever reason, I don't know why, actually. because it's really the same amount of writing, but somehow it just, for me at least, seems to come easier.
Maybe because like a TV show or a comic, like the road work is kind of like the roadway's already like laid out for you, and you just have to like fill in the blanks. But like with your original stuff, you have to build this whole world from scratch yourself.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely part of it, and I think part of it is, like I'm a big fan of the show of Gotham, so so part of writing these books just feels like I'm writing fan fiction. I'm just writing, wow, wouldn't it be cool if Alfred did this? So I'm just kind of, it's sort of fun, like, and then obviously writing a novel is fun also, but it's sort of fun in a different way.
So who's your favorite character on the show?
Probably, I would probably say Harvey, but I really like the villains. I like Penguin and, Nigma.
Mm-hmm. Did you see this
I think
week's
like
episode?
in the last episode, like Nigma just sort of stole the whole show, and so I kind of like that they're focusing on him now. I've heard rumors about Harley, but I don't know. We'll see if that actually happens. I don't know one way or the other, so no information here.
We've been calling that for like ever.
I don't know, but I wouldn't be. I really have no idea, so I'm just speculating. But I wouldn't be surprised because I would think they would want to have some sort of big cliffhanger for the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I have no knowledge about the end of this season.
That would be another story I'd like to see. I'd love to see you write something with the Court of Owl centric.
In a novel or in a
either a novel or comic, whatever would interest you.
But... I wanted to I believe I had suggested something, about writing a book specifically about the Court of Owls, but since that plot line really hasn't been fully developed on the show, I think they wanted me to stay on that. So they certainly don't want me to give away anything in a book that would it should really supplement the show.
Yeah, it could be another prequel novel because they've been around for a long time.
Well, what's really cool about the prequel novel and this City of Monsters novel that I'm working on now is that they fit into the continuity of the show because one of them's a prequel and one's going to take place between season 2 and season 3. You could watch the show and read these books, and it sort of supplements it. It was sort of lucky that there was that 6-month, the writers provided that like 6-month gap to like fit a novel between season 2 and season 3. I think sometimes with these sorts of books, it's a challenge to come up with a storyline that makes any sense, because if you watch, within the timeline of the show, it's hard to have, for example, like if I was going to write a novel with Bruce Wayne as the center that took place during season 3, I think that would be very hard without completely overlapping over the show because it's sort of linear. The timeline's very linear, and there's not really much room for Bruce to go off and have some other adventure that makes much sense. So that was one reason why we decided to do a prequel as the first book, because there was just a lot of leeway to do a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, like I said, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel, and it was a great book, Jason. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, he tore through it, and I'm like, oh. Like, by the time, like, my book came from Amazon, he was done.
He was done.
Yeah, because I went to the bookstore.
Just give me 3 days to catch up.
Well, thank you.
And I just wanted to switch gears and ask one more, like, kind of professional-ish question.
Okay.
Since your debut book, Cold Caller, you've literally put out a book every year or every other year. Like, you just love writing that much, or you just have that many ideas running around in your head?
Well, I don't have a shortage of ideas, that's for sure. I've gotten that question a lot, like, where do you get your ideas? But I think when you make a decision that you want to be a writer, just like any other profession, if you're a doctor, you're thinking about medical stuff all the time. If you're, if you're working in advertising, you're thinking about marketing. Once you make a decision to become a writer, your brain sort of starts working that way. So, I'm always thinking of ideas. Everything that happens, some sparks an idea. Sometimes I'm reading a book, and I'll say, well, wouldn't it be really cooler if this happened? And so even reading another book can inspire an idea because it sets you off on a tangent and you start thinking about the idea. So I think over time, like coming up with the ideas really isn't the challenge. I think the challenge of being able to produce a book or a couple of books a year is, for me at this point, is being able to make sure I'm thinking about the right ideas, because I don't want to spend 6 months working on an idea that really doesn't have legs. So it's really choosing the idea and making sure, and that it, that it has legs and that it has potential. But the commercial aspect is very important. So money is a big motivator. I want to, producing a book or two a year and knowing that's how you're going to get, make a living, is certainly, provides the encouragement to write all the time. But it does help because I do love it, and it's also part, enjoyable as well. So, the key for me is to pick projects that, like Gotham, for example, that are enjoyable, that I could also, get paid to write.
Awesome. We want to thank you for your time. You've been such a great interview guest, especially with our Skype issues. So
thank you. I'll be listening in, and anytime. Hopefully, come back when the next book comes out.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Alrighty. I know we've done it everywhere else. But should we plug our new podcast here?
Yeah, you probably should. Rob can edit that one. That one was a nightmare.
He was great, but yeah, that Skype.
The Skype issues are a nightmare.
I know. But anyway, I'm sure you're sick of hearing this, but me, Lilith, Charlie Esser, Tyler Patrick. Well, if we talk to Jason again, it probably won't be here on Before the Bat. It'll be on our new podcast, your one-stop shop for anything from the four of us. Capes and Lunatics. I keep wanting to say Capes and Tights. Capes and Lunatics. And you were like,
you can wear tights on the show. We're only shooting from the waist up, so that's what you want to do, though.
As far as she knows. But anyway, we're starting in the beginning of June. If you'd like to know the exact time we start or any details, follow us all over social media. We'll even answer any and all questions. Facebook.com/Capes and Lunatics. On Twitter, we're at Capes Lunatics. We're on Instagram, and we have a board on Pinterest, Capes and Lunatics. And the newest thing we've never had before, voicemail. So we can actually hear you ask these questions, make comments, whatever you want to do, send them in. 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Woo. And Lilith, if anyone would like to discuss anything, TV show, comic books, novels, anything, how can they talk to you?
Well, for DC TV, you can continue to follow at Lilith Hellfire. For everything else, please follow Adventures in Fangirl on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, pretty much any social media, Snapchat, at Adventures in FG. Please be sure to check out my website, adventuresinfangirling.com. Like and share those articles. Leave me some comments. I do read and respond to all, so I will see you there in the comment section.
And as for me, of course, you can always get a hold of me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. Like I said, just follow Capes and Lunatics on all social media. You'll find out exactly when we start. And we may even be showing up on YouTube, so we'll keep you updated on that. Everyone can finally answer that mystery question. Who is Lilith Hellfire?
Well, if you were a Private Tech Files fan, you would have saw me on Entertainment Canada. Just saying.
Listen to her, Miss Big Time TV. All right. Well, unless you have anything else, I think that's it for us.
I think we're done.
So
pick up the book if you haven't picked it up. It's great. It's a fast read. Like, it sucks you in.
Oh yes, very good. Like I said, Gotham: Dawn of Darkness by Jason Starr. Pick that up. So I guess that's all from me and Canada TV's finest, Little Hellfire. So until next time, same bad channel, Gotham Podcast.
For now.
That's right. For now, Capes and Lunatics is coming. Good night.